I'm Donovan Kane. Welcome to my podcast, brought to you by Audible, where I read erotic stories for women to you. Why? Well, because sometimes you just want a man to read you a naughty story. This is actually a bonus episode. It's not an erotic story by itself. A lot of you may or may not know that I also narrate audiobooks, both romance and erotic novels. On today's episode, I'm going to interview an author of one of those romance novels that I have narrated. It's USA Today bestselling author Samantha Cole. The title of the book is Take the Money and Run, and it's book 1 in the Malone Brothers series. Now, you'll hear a short clip of the book in the middle of the interview, but you're also going to be able to get this audiobook absolutely free from Audible. All you have to do is go to audibletrial.com/Donovan Kane. You can sign up for a free trial membership. It costs you nothing whatsoever. You're not obligated to buy anything, and you get to choose an audiobook of your choice. And today, you'll be able to get Take the Money and Run, Malone Brothers Book 1, written by USA Today bestselling author Samantha Cole. And a little bit of a hidden bonus in this episode. If you've ever wanted to try your hand at writing romance novels, Samantha Cole has many tips for you to get started in this interview. And you can get a hold of her at SamanthaColeAuthor.com, or with any other questions, you can send them to me by going to DonovanKane.com. Here's the interview. I hope you enjoy listening to it as much as I enjoyed talking with Samantha Cole. Here with USA Today bestselling author Samantha Cole today. How are you doing, Samantha?
I'm doing very good. How are you?
Very good. I'm doing great, And we were just talking a little bit before the interview, and you said you were a little bit weirded out because apparently you hear your characters in my voice.
Absolutely. I'm so used to hearing your voice read my books and be the voice of my characters. So it's a little odd talking to you in this context, to actually be responding to you.
Well, hopefully it won't be the last time. Maybe you'll get used to me talking to you in this way too. I got used to being your characters too, and one of them we were talking about was Ian Sawyer in one of your books, and it's your books are very challenging to read, by the way, because there's such different characters and there's so much action, and they're just very exciting to read, but they are challenging.
Yeah, I love my characters. I mean, they are so different from each other.
They are.
And I laugh at them as they're telling me their story. And Ian is one of my favorite ones to write. His sarcasm mixed in with his alpha maleness, and then just his love of his family. I mean, he's such a broad character, and he's a very he's a big fan favorite with my readers.
Oh, I'm very sure of that. Very sure of that. He's a favorite of mine too. I love reading as Ian. And all your characters when they come to life off the page, when I'm in the studio and trying to figure out which voice to use from each one of them, people ask me how I do decide, and I don't. And it's probably like the way you write these characters. They have a voice of their own, and they talk in a certain way, and it just comes out when you visualize them, and that's how it is, you know.
Absolutely, and you do such a fantastic job of bringing their voices correctly to me, because people will ask me, well, what does Ian look like, or how do you picture him in your head? And a lot of times, what I turn around and say, the reader will be, yes, I can see that. That's exactly how I pictured him from reading your descriptions and, his tone of voice and all that. But then I have this voice that I can never explain to the readers exactly how I hear him. And then for you to put that voice into my head and sound exactly as I pictured them, it's really incredible.
Well, I'm very happy that you feel that way. I don't want to do your characters that have been that you have brought to life. I don't want to do them in a way you didn't picture them. So that's very good for me to hear. I appreciate you saying that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I when I start listening to a new book that you're in the process of working on, and I hear the new character come in, and I'm like, damn, he nailed that. I love it.
Oh, you're just very kind. That's what it is. You're very kind. But I mean, that books are just very exciting to read. I enjoy reading them, and it's certainly not work at all. What's that saying? Find something you love to do, and you'll never work a day in your life. And your books are like that for me to read.
Oh, thank you. Well,
I
thank you.
love
That
doing
means
them.
that means a lot because you have read quite a few authors,
I have
and I'm
read
sure,
a few,
and
yeah.
yeah, and in different genres and stuff. So that's a compliment that I'm going to take.
Well, I love your book. So here's something that I get asked. You probably get asked questions about me and about the voices and things like
Got
that. But I get questions about you. And so just tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay. I'm a retired police officer and paramedic. My retirement did not come when I thought it was going to be coming. It was due to a car accident that I was into, and 4 knee surgeries later, and a neck surgery later, I'm retired. But after one of my surgeries, I was sitting on my couch, and my mom was visiting, and this was, I forget if it was the third or fourth surgery that I had. And I got so tired of watching TV, and I had been reading 15, 20 books a month at that point because I had nothing else to do but sit on the couch with my knee elevated and iced and everything.
Right.
And I decided to try and put some of these words in my head, these stories that I've always had, and put them down. And I started in 2011. And then after 2.5 books, I realized I had no idea what I was doing, and I assumed I had no future writing at all, and I stopped.
Oh,
And then
no.
I did. Take the Money and Run was written, and half of The Devil's Spare Change was written when I stopped. And back then, I had made the mistake of letting my family and friends read my books. And
Ah, yeah.
that's something I tell new authors all the time. I said, it's not that they don't want to support you. Maybe they do want to support you, but the problem was nobody wanted to tell me how crappy my writing was because I was doing every author don't. I had information dumps. I had dialogue tags. I had run-on sentences that were 60, 70 words long. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And nobody wanted to tell me that. They liked the story,
Yeah, sure.
but nobody wanted to tell me that. So anyway, I turned around and said, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. This isn't for me. And fast forward to 2015, I had these 6 Navy SEALs that would not get out of my head. And for the months, I would not write them. I was afraid to write them. And one day I was walking my dogs, and Devin, who is book 1, Leather and Lace, turned around and said, you're going to go back and you're going to start writing mine and Kristen's story. And I said, no, I'm not. I said, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. No, I'm
So,
literally having a conversation with him in my head.
no, you're not. You're having an argument with him in your
I'm,
head.
exactly. I'm having an argument with him. And he's like, well, I'm not going to let up until you go back and start writing my story. And finally, I did. And I wrote 85,000 words in 1 week. Don't ever ask me to do that
Oh,
again.
my.
But it was because I had his entire story in my head by the time I had the courage to put it down. So the words just flowed.
It was all behind a big dam just waiting to be let out, huh?
Basically, yes.
Hmm.
And then it took me 2 weeks to write Ian's story, Ian and Angie's story. And in the meantime, I went online. I said, okay, I'm not letting my family and friends read this. Let's find out what I'm going to do here. So I went online and I found World Literary Cafe, which is no longer available. I was hoping somebody was going to restart that website because it was really good. And then I also found Goodreads, and I found out I needed beta readers. I said, okay, let's go find some beta readers. I had no idea that this huge, amazing book community was on Facebook, was on social media.
Right.
And one of the beta readers at the time liked the story, but she saw that I had a lot of issues. And she said, do you mind if I hook you up with another indie author? And I think she can, point you in the right direction. And I got to give her a shout out, Katrina Courtenay. She has a couple of books out, but she's went back to school, so she's not writing at the moment.
Okay.
But she and I chatted daily for a year and a half. And she answered every single one of my questions, and she sent me in the right direction, and she hooked me up with the right people and saved me from ending up with a vanity press and everything else. And I owe my entire career to her because she just was phenomenal.
Wow, that is great.
And we don't chat that much anymore because her husband retired from the military and they moved. And now, like I said, she's back in school now. But we do check in with each other every once in a while. But I really have to thank her repeatedly for what she did for me.
That's great. Give us her name again, and so people can go find her books as well.
Katrina Courtenay, Courtney, I think.
Very good.
I'm close.
And I assume they're for sale on Amazon as well.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. That's a very interesting story, and it also tells authors out there that are listening to this that sometimes you need some help when you're first starting out.
Absolutely. If you're an indie author, or if you're going to pitch to a traditional publisher, you need help. You can't just what a lot of authors call word vomit. You can't just word vomit and put 85,000 words down and say, okay, clap your hands, I'm done.
Move on to the next story.
No, let's throw this up there and move on to the next story.
Right. Exactly.
And the readers will come crawling to me and they're going to love it, and they have this huge shock when nobody buys their book.
And then they're crushed too.
Absolutely.
So they might be very good authors at heart, but like you said,
right.
You're a very good author, but when you were starting out, you just simply needed some help, and we all do.
Absolutely. And there are so many great author groups on Facebook. There's Alexandra Torrey Inkers. There's Indie Author Support, and Author Support Network is another one. And there are so many others, and all these authors are in there helping each other. And contrary to what 1% may feel, the 99% of the authors out there want to see everybody succeed. We will do what we can to help you.
And that's very good to know.
Yeah, and we'll do everything but write the book for you.
There you go. Well, that's a very good point. There are a lot of people that would like to write romance novels, and it's like everything else, I suppose, in the entertainment world. Well, it's like what I do. I can read a book, I can read a book and get paid for it, and put it up for sale. But until you start doing it, you don't really understand what is involved with it. It's like being an actor or a comedian or songwriter or anything else. You have to get in there and get started, but you also need help along the way.
Absolutely. And everything is constantly evolving. Amazon ads and Facebook ads, those are ever changing, and you have to learn how to do them. And then there's new social media sites coming on, and you got to figure out what to do with them, and you have to figure out how to get your newsletter out there and get your reader group going. And
so what you're saying is writing the book is not the
writing the book is the easy part.
It seriously is.
I've
Right.
heard some people say that before, and I totally agree. Writing
It's
the book
easy.
is the easy part.
It might be easy for an author like yourself that is very talented. It's not easy for everyone, I don't think. But
No,
like you say,
I'm
there's a
not
huge
saying I'm not saying it's easy
right
for everyone to write a book. I'm saying it's easier to write the book
than to promote it.
than to promote it.
Right. I can certainly understand that because there's, like you say, there's just so much out there, and so I guess what we can tell the other authors listening to this is get on Facebook, get on social media, find other authors like yourself, and ask for help.
Absolutely.
All they can say is no, right, and send you out to somebody else.
Exactly. And there are so many of us that have no problem. You turn around and come to me, ask a question. If I don't know the answer, I'll point you in the right direction. If I do know the answer, if I have the free moment, I will send it to you. I had actually gotten so many authors from newer authors, I should say, from these author groups that I'm in, sending me private messages and asking me questions, and I kept seeing the same questions over and over again. So finally, I wrote them the answers down and created a blog for it. So it's oneauthortoanother.com. And it's got tips in there. I have other authors come in and do guest spots. And it's just everything that I've learned trial and error, I've turned around and made a post about.
Oh, that's very helpful. And what was the address again?
Oneauthortoanother.com.
Very good. Very good. All right. Well, they can go and check that out, get some of their most important questions answered anyway, and get started. So, okay, now moving on to how you got interested in romance books. Now, let's face it, you could have been an author of many different types of books, any kind you wanted. And Stephen King, if you ask him, people will ask him, why do you write horror? And he says, you're assuming I had a choice. And I'm going to assume that it kind of worked the same way with you.
Absolutely. Since when I started writing the first time, all I had in my head was romance. It's what I enjoyed reading. My grandmother gave me my first romance books. She had some Harlequin and Silhouette novels. I think I was about 15 when she gave them to me, to my mother's horror. And she wasn't ready for me to start delving into that world yet. But, my grandmother was like, everybody's in love. So there's a little sex in there. She's, don't worry about it.
There you go.
And that's, I do like to read thrillers, mystery. Vince Flynn, I love his Mitch Rapp series. James Patterson, his Women's Club series, and there's a bunch of other authors that I really enjoy that are not romance stories.
Right.
But I want everybody to have a happy ending.
There you go. Don't we all?
Although I do have a couple of books in mind that are straight out thrillers that I would love to dive into one of these days. I would probably have to put them under my initials or something so people know that there wouldn't necessarily be the happy ending that they're expecting.
Well, you're talking about how you love to write romance and talking about doing some other kinds of titles at some point, but you're so good. You're so good with the story, and
Thank you.
Me, that's why I like to read your books.
Yeah.
I like to read your books because it's not just the romance part, it's not just the relationship part, it's not just the sex. There's a story there, and it's exciting. And if you don't have that story, it just doesn't happen.
Exactly. I've read a couple of authors, some who sometimes do romance suspense, and sometimes they just do contemporary romance.
Right.
And it's more of just the relationship and the romance and the sex, and there's really no side story going on.
Right.
There's no kidnappers, there's no drug dealers, there's no murderers.
Sure.
And while I do enjoy those stories, I find I enjoy a book more when I have that suspense going on. That, and maybe it's because of my background, being a retired police officer, being a retired medic. I dealt with so many different cases out there, and it's I just kind of need that in there. And what I find is when I try to do just the romance, it ends up being a novella.
Right.
Because I feel like if I'm going to make it a novel size without that suspense being in there,
Mhm.
it's just going to have fillers. And that bothers me. And if it bothers me, it's going to bother the reader.
Sure. And you have to write what you like to write, and you have to write what's comfortable to you. And if you don't, people will see right through that, and it's not going to work.
Right.
And that's what I've seen.
Right. And I tell my mom, because my mom's only allowed to read certain books of mine.
Right.
She's read the Malone brothers. She's read My Road to Solace, and
Oh, wait a second now. She doesn't know about the Covenant? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, she knows that those books are racier, and I'm not comfortable with her reading it.
Right.
For the reason being, I can't write my characters the way they're telling me to be written if I'm censoring myself for her.
No, absolutely not. You can't censor while you write or do anything else creative.
Exactly. Exactly. And she's very okay with that. And I have a couple of aunts who know my pen name, and and I'm like, do me a favor. If you do read my other stuff, I don't want to know about it. Don't tell me that, because then I'm going to be sitting there saying, oh my God, so-and-so is going to read this. I can't write that.
Well, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they've listened to it. I'm just playing the devil here. They have.
But yes.
That as long as they don't tell,
Exactly.
Now, how many books have you written?
Oh my goodness! I just released my 30th book.
30 books.
Yep.
30 books.
And that since 2015, April 2015. Yes.
All because a Navy SEAL was in your head and told you go write this book.
Yep. When you're done walking the dogs and they're done doing their business, go back, open the computer, sit down, and I'm going to start telling you my story, and you're going to put it down.
And that was Devin.
And that was them.
Well, that was Devin that was telling you that, right?
Yep, that was Devin.
Okay, well,
and ironically, since you've already read the first several books of the series, Brody is the one who first popped into my head, but Brody didn't get his story until book 6.
Wow.
And I always laugh at that. I'm like, here was the sexy six-pack, because Carter wasn't in there until I was halfway through Devin's book. Carter didn't show up until that point, so I didn't even know he existed. So we're not going to talk about Carter for a split second. And I had these 6 guys, but Brody is the first one who popped into my head and said, "Hey, hi, how are you?" And then Devin started pushing him out of the way and saying, "Well, Kristen and my story is first." And then Ian and Angie popped in, and then Boomer's story starts. Then I'm writing Boomer's story, and Jake won't shut up. So I actually wrote most of Jake's book in the middle of writing Boomer's book, which is really difficult to do sometimes. But if I hit a brick wall with Boomer, I just went over to Jake, because he was already saying, "Hey, we got the scene over here. Come on over here. Let's write it." Then you can go back to him.
Well, when you were going to leave Boomer, did he ever just pass out?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He fainted.
I love that part of that book. Don't mean to interrupt you, but that was a great part of that book. Yeah.
So many people have loved that book, that part, and I knew when I wrote it that I was going to have to put it in the end of His Angel as a intro to the next book, and that's exactly how that intro ends. Is he faints?
Yep.
and I said, here is this big bad Navy SEAL, and he just fainted for the first time in his life because
he did something he'd never done in his entire life. He fainted.
He fainted.
It was good.
Yes.
That surprised me when I was reading your book. So no, that was great. And this book we're about to hear, we're going to take a clip out of the first book of the Malone Brothers book.
Okay.
And how many books are in the Malone Brothers series?
Right now there's 2. Okay. Book 3 should be out by the end of the year. I am hoping. Fingers crossed. Brian stopped talking to me for a little bit, but the book is halfway written.
Okay.
But he hit a roadblock with me. He was the one who didn't want to get married, didn't want a long-term relationship. So when I started giving it to him, he was like, well, time out. Hold on. Right. So I had to go do a few other books, but now he's starting to talk to me again, and I'm hoping he's going to be out at the end of the year. So that'll be the first 3 books. And then Brian's partner with the North Carolina State Police is going to get his book. So I'm going to have the Whisper series, which is going to be the spin-off series from the Malone Brothers.
Well, very good. Very good.
So there are some characters that are in the Malone Brothers that the readers will get in the Whisper series.
Very good. Well, it's a little difficult with you, and I'll tell you why. Because you have so many good books, it's hard to concentrate. I'm sitting here talking to you, and I've done I believe 5 of your books now.
Yep.
And it's hard for me to talk about just one, because to me they all fit together. And I think if listeners out there, once you read or listen to one of Samantha's books, I think you'll find the same thing, that you'll want to read or listen to more, and because they're good, and you won't want to leave world. Yeah. You won't want to leave that world. It's once you get into that world, it's just someplace you want to stay. And so we're going to hear this clip from the Malone Brothers. Can you kind of set this little clip up for us?
Okay. The clip is, if I remember correctly, which one we're doing?
Yeah, we're doing the one where he just he's coming back.
Come home. Okay. So Casey is a Navy SEAL, and he's active. He comes home from a mission, and he's got a month's leave before he has to report back. And he's been in the SEALs for a while, and he's got to make a decision on whether or not he's going to accept a position at the SEAL Academy teaching the BUDS course. And he's not sure if he's ready to come out of the field yet. He's not sure if he's ready to leave his team yet. And he arrives home at his uncle's beach house, where he spent his teenage years after him and his brothers spent their teenage years there after their parents were killed. And so he came home to spend his month there. Well, his uncle, who is living in an apartment in town, decided to rent out the beach house without telling KC about it. And that's where we're coming in.
That's where it comes in. Okay. Well, we'll take a listen to this clip, and we'll be right back after that with Samantha Cole. Just before you listen to this clip, I want you to remember this program is brought to you by Audible. So you're going to be able to get a copy of this audiobook for free on Audible. If you do not have an Audible membership now, you can go to sign up for a free Audible trial, and you get your choice of any book. But of course, you're going to pick the Malone Brothers in the Take the Money and Run. So here's how you do it. You just simply go to audibletrial.com/Donovan Kane. We're going to hear a short clip from Take the Money and Run from Malone Brothers Book 1. Letting his military green duffel drop inside the door with a thud, Casey relocked the deadbolt, flipped the light switch on, turned around, and froze. Fuck a damn duck. The last thing he expected when he arrived at his uncle's place was to be confronted by a slim, auburn-haired woman. She was wearing nothing but a terrified look on her face and a thin white T-shirt, which barely reached her shapely thighs. She was also pointing a black and very deadly semi-automatic 9mm at his chest. "Who the hell are you? And how'd you get in here?" the woman demanded. The strength of her voice was in total contrast to the fear in her eyes and the unsteadiness in which she held the heavy gun in her outstretched hands. What the fuck had he just walked in on? Some transient who broke in looking for a place to sleep? Well, if she was a transient, she was a darn cute one. Damn. He really was tired if he thought an intruder with a gun was cute. He held his arms out, palms open, to show her he wasn't armed. Well, he was. He just wasn't prepared to let this crazed woman know it. Yet. Casey kept his voice low and calm. "I could be asking you the same thing." "I asked you first." Her weapon remained pointed at him as she inched her way to the left, putting several pieces of furniture between them. He kept his demeanor and hands steady. "This is my uncle's place, and I stay here when I'm in town. Now, why don't you lower that gun before someone gets hurt?" The woman narrowed her shockingly blue eyes. Even at the distance separating them, he could see they were the color of the shallow waters of the Caribbean Sea. Nevertheless, she showed no signs of relinquishing her perceived vantage point. "That someone is going to be you if you move a muscle. I rented this cottage from Dan Malone, and he didn't mention anything about a nephew." "That's impossible." Casey shook his head slowly in disbelief. "Uncle Dan would never rent this place." Her chin tilted up in defiance despite the slight tremor in it. "Well, apparently he would, and he did. 3 days ago. To me. Now leave." Casey noticed the weight of the gun was starting to take its toll on the woman's extended arms as they began to shake and sway. He let out a loud, weary sigh. "What can I say or do to convince you to set the gun down? Or better yet, put it away?" "You can leave. That's what you can do." "Sorry, honey, that's not going to happen." He noticed her eyes flared in silent fury at the personal endearment. "What else?" "If you're Dan Malone's nephew, prove it." Her tone told him no matter what he said, it wasn't going to make a difference to her. Casey scanned the room and realized if his uncle did lease the cottage to this insane woman, he'd kept it fully furnished. Nothing had changed, and all his uncle's things still decorated the comfortable room. There was no evidence of personal items which might belong to the woman who stood before him. Even though he thought it was strange, he ignored the simple fact for the moment and pointed to the mantel over the red brick fireplace. "The picture on the left is of my uncle, brothers, and me on a fishing trip last year. My hair's a little longer now, but that's me on the far right. I'm in most of the photos around the room, but that's the most recent." He stayed perfectly still as the woman made her way over to the fireplace to look at the picture, keeping enough distance between her and KC to ensure he wouldn't attack her. He knew he could easily overtake her, but she was obviously scared, and there was no point in anyone being hurt unnecessarily. She glanced quickly at the photo and then back at him, but didn't say a word. Evidently, she was still wary. "And the football trophy next to it is from my senior year of high school, when we won the state championship. It has my name on it. If you let me take my wallet out, I could show you my license." The woman thought about it for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, but slowly." Casey eased his leather wallet out of his back pocket and tossed it on the floor at her feet. Keeping the gun trained on him, she cautiously lowered herself to the ground to pick it up. Opening the smooth leather case, she studied his license and then tossed the brown wallet back to him. He caught it in his right hand and slowly returned it to his rear pocket, keeping his left hand where she could see it. The tension in her face and shoulders eased a little, but she still kept the weapon pointed at him. "Okay, I'm convinced you are related to Mr. Malone. But it doesn't explain what you're doing sneaking in here in the middle of the night, scaring the hell out of me. You have to leave, now." Casey let out another frustrated sigh. The situation was getting old and annoying real fast. "Look, I already proved I'm Dan's nephew. Can you put away the damn gun before you accidentally shoot me?" Her hand shook. "How do you know it would be an accident, and not on purpose?" "Oh, for fuck's sake." He lowered his arms and bent to retrieve his duffel bag, only a smidgen faster than a snail's pace so not to alarm her. "Look, lady, I wasn't sneaking in here. I still don't know who you are, and right now, I'm too fucking exhausted to give a damn. Shoot me or let me go to bed. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I haven't had more than a 2-hour nap in over 54 hours. Her jaw dropped as he began to walk toward the hallway, which led to the 2 downstairs bedrooms. But you can't stay here. He stopped and glared at her over his shoulder. Why the hell not? It's the middle of the night, and I'm about to drop dead of exhaustion. I'm not getting back into my car to find another place to sleep when there's a comfortable bed just down the hall. I'm also not going to hurt you. Trust me, you're safer with me than almost anyone else. We'll work this out in the morning. Right now, I'm going to go to sleep. The woman continued to stare at him in shock, mouth agape, gun in hand, as he strode down the hall. He entered the smaller of the 2 bedrooms, shut the door behind him with a faint, resounding click, and turned the lock. He honestly didn't think she would shoot him, but it was better to be safe than sorry. All right, and that was a clip from the Malone Brothers Book 1, Take the Money and Run. And I have to say that was a surprise what he did at the end of that clip. When I was reading it, I thought, well, you go.
It's 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. He's been up for 48 hours.
Right.
He's not leaving.
No.
He knows he's not a threat to her.
Right.
And
at this point, he's going, you know what? Shoot me.
Exactly.
I'm just going to bed. That was great. So you want to listen to the rest of the book. It's a great book, like all Samantha's books are. But just go to the page that we were talking about. You can actually get a free copy of this book. And if you do not already have a membership with Audible, you can sign up, get a free copy of the book by going to audibletrial.com/Donovan Kane. And you know what? If you do already have an Audible membership, you get 1 book a month free anyway. So use it on this one. You won't be disappointed. So tell us what's next for Samantha Cole. I got one more question before we go there.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know where you were and how you felt when you found out that you were a USA Today best-selling author.
I was on I-95 going from New York down to southern Jersey, and there was construction on either side of me, so there was no shoulder. And all of a sudden, my phone started going off, and I have the feature in my car where I can have my radio or my whoever she is on my radio. She can read my text.
Oh.
So she started reading them to me, and it was, oh my God, we hit number 42, and here I am screaming at the top of my lungs in the car with no place. I got to pull over. I'm doing 70 miles an hour, and there's no place to pull over.
Oh my! So did you just reach out? Did you just stick your head out the window and yell at the construction workers? That sounds like a romance book right there.
Yeah, right.
But no, that must have been. That's just huge.
It was totally huge. And the authors that I did the project with, we all felt the same way. We were all pretty much in the same spot of our careers, so nobody was riding anybody's coattails, and
right.
We all just wrote amazing stories that all the readers loved, and it was really amazing. It was really amazing, and I thought we were just gonna squeak on by, like around 140, close to 150, because it's the top 150 that hit. And when we got that number, all of us were stunned, absolutely stunned.
What an amazing thing that must have been. I mean, we just got done talking about how you started, and how basically you said, that's it, I'm no good at this, and then you have 6 Navy SEALs in your head, and one of them tells you, no, you go back in there and you write the book, and that's how it all started, and now you're a USA Today best-selling author. It's amazing.
It still blows my mind. And my other big accomplishment that I love was the Road to Solace, which I'm going to have you read one of these days
Okay.
when we're done with the series. But that won a silver medal in the Reader's Favorites Awards in 2017. And when I got that notification, I had completely forgotten that I had entered it into the awards.
You entered
So
and said, "Oh, I entered, and we'll see what happens," and forgot about it.
basically, because it's a good 6 months by the time they're done reading them all and
Right.
tallying up the points. And when I first went onto the website, and I was like, "Oh, this is really cool!" There was 100 entries, and then I realized that the pages kept going on and on and on. There was 110 pages with 10 titles each in the
Oh my.
contemporary romance category.
Oh
So
my.
I came in second place out of 1,100
That's amazing.
entries.
It
So
doesn't.
that just blew my mind.
It's amazing, but doesn't surprise me. Again, I've read your books. I know what they're like, and you're just great at what you do. You really are. And I think those two accomplishments from where you started, and I think in life we have those moments when you had to retire when you weren't expecting to a moment where you're sitting in a construction zone in your vehicle
Yeah,
and find out you're a USA Today bestselling author. How would you have ever foreseen that happening?
never, never.
So
I mean, when I put the books on the first time and the second time, my goal was to make $100 a month. That just
right,
something a little extra,
right,
showing that my that I did something that people want to read. Yeah, $100 a month. I'll be happy with that.
right.
And then the first time I hit 1,000 a month, I was just like, oh my god. And it's just grown since then. But it's it's still not the money. To me, it's getting these characters, bringing them to life, and having readers say, "Oh my God, I cried, I laughed, I was mad because I wanted to reach through the book and smack him," and have evoking all these emotions and saying, "Oh my gosh, something that I wrote has brought out all these emotions in these readers," and that's what gets me the most. That's what I enjoy the most. I still get tickle pink every time somebody sends me an email or a message through social media and saying, "Oh my goodness, I just finished insert book title here," and I was blown away. I went through something similar, and you described everything perfectly, and it was everything I felt is exactly how you wrote the story. And that that's like the greatest feeling. That tops any award. That tops any title you can put in front of my name, is having readers send me those messages.
I understand, but understand this. That's why you get the awards because you have that effect on people. You have that effect with the stories that come from your mind and your heart, and those awards are others saying that this is what you have accomplished and you deserve them. I love your stories. I think if you haven't listened to Samantha Cole's stories that I've read, please get on Audible and get them. If you haven't read them, if you'd rather read the book, it doesn't matter how you do they're just great stories. And one last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What's next for you?
Oh, got a lot of things coming up next. I have two more books that I'm hoping will be out by the end of the year. One is in the Doms of the Covenant series, and one is in the Hazard Fall series. You have not started those books yet for me, but you will be at some point. But hopefully those will be out. And then I just opened up my new suspenseful seduction world last Thursday, and
I heard about this. Now, tell me more about this. I'm not sure I quite
okay,
understand what this is.
gotcha. Okay, when I first came into the author worlds. Not long afterwards, Amazon did this thing that they called the Kindle Worlds, and they invited select authors and to offer a world to other authors. And basically, anybody could go in and write fan fiction borrowing that author's characters.
Oh, I see.
So you had, in a lot of instances, there were these side characters that the author never planned on giving a story to. They were a brief, one scene mention, and that they disappeared, never to be spoken of again. And sometimes somebody will be, oh my goodness, I would love to know what happened with that character. And so they were able to go in and basically write fan fiction. And as long as you included some of the author's characters in the story, you could write that. And when Kindle Worlds were still up, I wrote 2 books in Susan Stoker's world. And it was great because I took some of my characters from the Trident Security series and brought in new characters that were the main characters, and they both turned around and interacted with her Delta team.
Ah, I see. Okay.
So they were on a mission together, and they came across each other, and that's how it all started.
Well, that's just fun.
It's a lot of fun because, I had read Susan's Delta series. I loved it. And it's always fun thinking of, as you're reading another author's books, you tend to think, what would happen if my guys came across her guys?
Right.
And it does it happens more often than not, for me at least.
Sure. Right.
So when Kindle Worlds turned around and Amazon dropped the program for whatever reason, I have no idea why, Susan and a few other authors who had worlds turned around and made their own worlds outside of Kindle Worlds. So we could still write for their worlds, but it was now owned completely by them.
I see.
And there's a royalty split that goes on. She gets a portion and I get a portion. But what some people don't understand, they're like, oh my God, why am I going to give her money? Well, first of all, you're borrowing her characters.
Right, yeah. Right.
And secondly, you're getting access to all her readers who may not ever have found you had you not written in her world.
Well, yeah. Wait a second here. Hold on a second. You're telling me that somebody can come into your world that you've created here, write something with your characters, and put it up for sale?
Yeah.
Wow.
What they do is I actually do the uploading, and I do the distribution through a website, and I invite the other author to come in as a project, which is their book, and this other site takes care of dealing with all the royalty splits and everything else like that, because Amazon will only pay one person.
Right, right.
So this company decided, hey, this is a great way to have co-authors not have to deal with one of them getting the money each month, figuring out the difference that they have to give the other author, sending the other off of that, and then you have to deal with the taxes and all this other garbage. So this website, Bundle Rabbit, came up with this idea that for a small percentage, they will upload your books for you, and they will do the royalty split.
Wow.
And through Bundle Rabbit, they have a way of doing a world. So when I found out about this, I looked into it, and I spoke to the owner of the company through back and forth emails, just to make sure that this was something I wanted to do, and this was something that would be beneficial to both myself and the authors in the world. And and I decided to go with it. So I announced it last Thursday, so we're just at a week now. And I've already had 60 authors sign up to write books borrowing my characters next year.
Wow.
I started with 3 release dates, and I've had to add 4 more.
Well, that's amazing. That's very. It sounds. I guess I didn't understand the whole thing. Now that I do, this is a great way for somebody to get started.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know there are quite a few authors in Susan's world that their first book they ever wrote and published was one of her world books.
Wow.
So they started off with fan fiction, and now they have grown and they have their own series and their own books outside of the world.
That's
And
amazing.
It's great. And like I said, it gives you access to the world, the author that owns the world. It gives you access to all their readers.
Wow.
Because their readers are fanatics for their characters. And often I get people sending me messages saying, "Oh my God, I love this character. Are you giving, it was so sad what happened to him. Are you going to give him, a happy ending somewhere?" And I'm like, well, I really wasn't planning on it, At this point, I got like 15 more books in my head that still have to be written, and I wasn't even thinking about this guy.
Right.
So it's nice to have these authors come in, and I gave them a list of characters that they could give happy endings to, that they could make main characters, or they could bring in their own characters, make those their main characters, and somehow they interact with my characters.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
So like a team could come down, another special ops team that's in another author's series could come down to Tampa and need my guys for backup.
Wow.
Or, somebody just moves into the Tampa area and decides they want to join the Covenant. And
well, I think everybody wants to join the Covenant. I don't think it's just your characters. I get asked that question. Yeah, but
I've been asked that question. They want to know where the compound is.
They want to know where the compound is. Yeah. And if you don't, you probably don't know what we're talking about if we're talking about the Covenant. But if you listen to Samantha's books, you'll understand, and you'll go, "Where's the Covenant?" But no, that's a great idea. So where do authors go to take part in this?
They can contact me through my my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Samantha Cole author.
Okay.
Or they can contact me through my website. There's a contact sheet on the website.
And what is your website?
SamanthaColeAuthor.com.
Okay.
And those are the 2 best ways to get a hold of me. And I will send them all the information and the form to sign up. And like I said, right now there's 60 authors that are writing books to be released next year in the world.
That's amazing. And this doesn't cost them a cent.
It doesn't cost them. All it costs them is they have to get it professionally edited, and they have to get their own book cover.
Right. Well, that's a great deal. So if you're listening, I mean, we've accomplished a lot of things in this discussion. First of all, you found out some very interesting things about Samantha. You found out that you don't give up. When a Navy SEAL starts knocking on the inside of your skull, go back and start writing. That's what you do. And we find out that everybody needs some help when they get started. And we just found out a way, if you want to try this yourself, you can jump right in there and work with characters that people already know and love, and get into Samantha's world and be available to her readers and listeners. So that's amazing right there. So.
It's great. And there's quite a few authors out there that have opened up their worlds.
Very interesting.
Some that came from Kindle worlds, and some that created their own worlds without Amazon. And right now I'm binge reading L. James's series, and I'm going to be writing a book for her world.
Wow, very good.
At some point, probably next year, if very not good. 2021, depends on what's going on. But it's great, and I already have like a few flashes of ideas of who they're going to hook, who's going to hang out with who, and
right.
with who. So I mean, that's a lot of fun.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
So check out the book "Take the Money and Run" from the Malone Brothers series, book number 1. The clip that you just heard, you can go to Audible through a page that I have set up. Audible's bringing this show to you, so you can go to audible.com, or excuse me, not audible.com. You can go to audibletrial.com/Donovan Kane, and you can actually download "Take the Money and Run" for free. So you can do that. And I want to thank you very much for coming on the show with us. And
Thank you for having me.
Oh no, absolutely. The pleasure's been mine. It's been great. I hope you enjoyed today's interview with USA Today bestselling author Samantha Cole. If you'd like to get in touch with her or check out more of her books, and you should, go to her website, SamanthaColeAuthor.com. Now, if you'd like to get a copy of that audiobook that you heard a clip of today, you can get one for free by going to audibletrial.com/Donovan Kane. If you would like to get in touch with me, my personal email is donovan@donovankane.com. Today's show was brought to you by Audible. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. We'll have more author interviews here and there, as well as my weekly erotic short story. I'm Donovan Kane. For now, goodbye.